Now let's get into some fun. Jesse has what he believes to be the top Stanley Cup winning teams since the, interestingly enough, since the 04-05 lockout. Okay.
Here, can I just, here are the candidates, right? In case you forgot who won all the cups.
You're going to read. Okay, so there's 16 Stanley Cup champions. You're going to go through them all.
2006 Hurricanes, 2007 Ducks, 2008 Red Wings, 2009 Penguins, 2010 Blackhawks, 2011 Bruins, 2012 Kings, 2013 Blackhawks, 2014 Kings, 2015 Blackhawks, 2016 Pens, 2017 Pens, 2018 Capitals, 2019 Blues, 2020 Bolts, and 2021 Bolts. That is a nice shirt, Jesse.
Okay, Jesse.
Those are the candidates.
Give us your list.
All right. Top 6 Stanley Cup champions. I landed on top 6 because I ranked like the top 10-ish, and I landed on a definitive top 6 in that I don't think the 7th team could squeak in, and I think this is the definitive top bunch of teams. So it's in order. We'll start at the very top, or do you want to go 6-1?
Go 6-1.
6-1? Okay. Yeah. Let's do it that. Let's do it that way. Pittsburgh Penguins, 15-16.
Interesting.
They land at number 6. A lot of you'll see some consistent criteria amongst these teams. Some of it is regular season success, played a huge factor in my list. Playoff dominance, huge factor. I think those are the 2 things. I built this like a month ago when we talked about it, so I'm trying to remember all of the notes I made here. But the 15-16 Penguins, if you remember correctly, they had a 15-10-3 record on December 12th. They fire their head coach, Mike Johnston. They replace him with the other Mike Sullivan.
I'm surprised their record was that good. I thought it was worse.
I thought it was worse too. And remember, our hot take at the time was Jim Rutherford needs to go.
Yep. I remember.
Yeah,
I remember.
Woo! So they land at 6 on this list because they didn't steamroll their opponents in the playoffs, but they only had to play one game 7, and that was versus Tampa in the second round. These were the Matt Murray rookie playoffs, if you remember.
Yep.
He started more games in the playoffs than he did in the entire regular season. He had a .923 save percentage. This is the Phil Kessel Stanley Cups when he was robbed of a Conn Smythe trophy because he had to give it to Sidney Crosby. 10 goals, 12 assists, 22 points. That compares to Crosby's 19 points. Notable names from those teams: Crosby, Malkin, Kessel, Letang, Kunitz, Sheary, Rust, Bonino, Hagelin. It was the HBK year as well. It was
the Bonino.
That was
in game 1. Yep.
Oh, that was great. It was a fun run.
You know what else I remember about that? I believe it was ESPN. Not a single analyst picked the Penguins.
Wow.
They all picked the Sharks.
Yeah, but I mean, ESPN had to be covering hockey at that time, which they decidedly were not.
Fair.
Yeah. Fair. So when you compare this team at number 6 to the other teams, remember that their third line was their best line. Like that HBK line was their best line that playoffs. So imagine having a team so stacked that your third line is your best offensive line. So that's Phil Kessel on it. 15-16 Penguins coming in at number 6. Now, number 5, I'm not going to spend a lot of time in the description of the team because you remember them very well, because at number 5 is the 2020-2021 Tampa Bay Lightning. The ability to be the best offensive team on the ice or the best shutdown team on the ice at any moment, depending on whatever you needed on that very night, is why they land at number 5 here. They could have a 6-4 victory, or they could have a 1-0 victory. 1-0 victories, which they did very often, surprisingly, throughout this last playoffs. They didn't have a dominant run, I'd say, as compared to like the top 4 teams that we're going to get to, but that's why they come in at number 5, because they were such a strong team. But they had a lot of trouble versus the Islanders, who I had ranked as the second best team in the playoffs when we did those other rankings. They played in the best division in hockey during the regular season. They finished in 3rd behind Carolina and Florida, if you remember that. And then notable names, you all know them: Kucherov, Point, Stamkos, Hedman, McDonough, Vasilevsky. We could run them all down the list. That's number 5. Number 4, 2011-2012 Los Angeles Kings.
Interesting.
A lot of similarities to Pittsburgh. They fire their head coach on December 12th. the exact same day that Pittsburgh, a couple of years later, fired their head coach. They fired Terry Murray. They named John Stevens interim head coach. And then on the 20th, they hired Daryl Sutter to be their head coach, replacing Stevens. That the final month of their season, in the top 3 teams, you'll see this trend as well. It starts here with the Kings. The final month of the season, they go 12-4-3. Dominant. With Jeff Carter leading the way. They have the most dominant playoff run in the Cap era, but they were a regular season team that lost more games than they won. So I think they went 40, 27, and 15, which is 40 and 42. If you're counting the overtime losses as losses. They were hurt during the regular season. They had no scoring. And at the trade deadline, if you remember, or just before the trade deadline, they trade for Jeff Carter. Greatest midseason trade of the Cap era. That's what I put
without
here.
question.
I think I don't know how you debate it if the team goes on to win the Stanley Cup and then this guy becomes your best player on the ice. They lost
They were like 11th place team in the conference. They were terrible.
Yeah, it was crazy. They lose 4 games in total in the playoffs, and 2 of the games were after they took a 3-0 lead. So of the 4 games, they were already up 3-0 in the series, and they lose another. Notable names from those teams: Carter, Quick, Doughty, Dustin Brown, Dustin Penner, Kopitar, Mike Richards, Voynov, Rob Scuderi. Like, you run down the list, these Kings teams were amazing. I wrote this final note. At 10:10 of the first period of the finals, New Jersey's Steve Bernier was assessed a major boarding penalty and a game misconduct on a hit for Rob Scuderi. The Kings then put the game out of reach by scoring 3 goals on the ensuing 5-minute power play. So the power play, it's just there's as soon as you score, like, it doesn't cancel. So they scored 3 goals on the full 5-minute penalty.
And if I'm not mistaken, the Devils had won back-to-back games too.
Yeah,
there was a chance they were going to do the reverse sweep.
Yeah, that was game 6,
and that wrote it off.
And the 5-minute major penalty ended the whole run by the Devils, and the Kings went on to win the cup.
Kovalchuk was unbelievable during that playoff run for the Devils.
So was David Clarkson.
So yes, he was.
Yeah, that's so.
Yes, he was.
And then the next year,
Yeah. Okay.
Number 3, 06-07 Anaheim Ducks. Shout out Brian Burke.
Great
Set
team.
an NHL record by earning at least 1 point in each of their first 16 games in the regular season. They started off 12-0-4, NHL record. Notable names on those teams: Getzlaf, Perry, Solani, Chris Pronger, Niedermeyer, Jaguar, Brizgalov, Chris Kunitz, Dustin Penner. 2 names that were on the list previously as well. This reason this team's at 3 is because no team except the 2 teams above them on the list were as dominant as them in the Cap era in terms of regular season. It was extremely boring Cup run to the finals for them. If you remember, the Ducks went 4-1 versus Minnesota, 4-1 versus Vancouver, 4-2 versus Detroit. There was the only kind of challenge, and then 4-1 versus Ottawa. It was boring because the Ducks literally just went through the playoffs without a challenge. They get every series, nothing goes to the limit. And then in the finals, the 3 1-goal games in the finals is what I was looking for. So 3 1-goal games in the finals. It was super close for Ottawa, but it was never really close for the Ducks because they ended up just winning as they did every other series.
And that's when Eugene was a hero in Ottawa because he'd saved them.
Right?
Oh.
People forget.
Time changes stuff. There's a few names on this list already where time changes stuff significantly.
Yeah.
Number 2, the 12-13 Chicago Blackhawks. They won the President's Trophy. The only team besides the top team on this list to win the President's Trophy and then win the Stanley Cup. When I was doing the research for this little list here, I realized how rare it was for the best regular season team to also go on to win the Stanley Cup. So the 2 teams at the top of this list did that very thing. The Blackhawks went 21-0-3. Do you know how ridiculous that is to do that in a hockey season?
It was ridiculous. Like, because it was, we were all just happy to be watching hockey again. And I remember, so it sort of flew under the radar because everyone was so obsessed with their own team. And then every now and then you check the standings and be like, sorry, the Blackhawks haven't lost?
Yeah.
Didn't lose until the 25th game of the season. It was
That's
ridiculous.
amazing.
So their road to the Stanley Cup, they took care of business. The Wild, they beat them in the first round. Then they went down 3-1 to the Red Wings in the second round. They almost lost, and they came back to win the series. Then they beat the Kings in 5. And the Kings they beat in the finals that year. If you remember, the Kings won the Cup in 12 and 14. So I think out of anybody on this list, that's probably the toughest opponent that any Stanley Cup champion has had. The Blackhawks facing the Kings in the semifinals. I think I said the finals of the semifinals of the Western Conference. The Western Conference Finals being the Kings there, who were the Stanley Cup champions in the sandwich 2 years before there. And then they go on to beat the Bruins in the final, who won the Cup 2 years prior. So the last 3 Stanley Cups, they beat the 2 teams who won those last 3 Stanley Cups.
Well, and 17 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
17. Do you remember that? So it was game 6. The Bruins were on the verge of forcing game 7 in that series. Brian Bickle scores with like a minute and a half or something like that to go to tie it. And then Dave Boland scores 17 seconds later. They win the Cup.
Unbelievable.
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing like how many cups were scored like with less than 2 minutes to go in the game. Obviously, Alec Martinez was overtime. There was this by Dave Boland, and there was also Patrick Hornquist in 2017. It was a 0-0 game with like a minute left, and he scores.
And the Leafs also obsessed with getting third line pieces off of Stanley Cup winners.
Adam, I was having fun. Like, why?
Oh no, it started with what was his name, Versteeg, and it was also Bolin and Clarkson, same year. Or yeah, they got them in the same year.
No, it was one a year. You got to get one every year.
Oh.
It was great. No, Bolin and Clarkson was same year.
Same year. Yeah.
Yeah, you're right.
So at 6, it was the 15-16 Penguins. At 5, the 20-21 Lightning.
Mm-hmm.
At 4, the 11-12 Kings. At 3, the 06-07 Ducks. At 2, the 12-13 Blackhawks. Can you guys tell me who's number 1?
I think you're going to say last year's Lightning.
I don't know how you can't say last year's Lightning. So I'm going to also say, Steve, last year's Lightning.
You're both incorrect.
Oh,
The number 1 team on this list of the post-lockout Stanley Cup champions is the 07-08 Detroit Red Wings.
oh,
Interesting.
Let me tell you about this damn team.
Interesting.
Besides the Blackhawks, they're the only other team to win the President's Trophy and then win the Stanley Cup. Notable names on this roster: Zetterberg, Datsyuk, Kronwall, Lindstrom, Phil Pula, Chris Draper, Osgood, backed up by Old Man Hasek. Chris Chelios played 14 playoff games, but not in the finals. From
because Babs would have been like, no.
Yeah, no, you can't do that. From November 24th to February 5th, they went 26-4-3. The regular season dominance is there. They outshot Pittsburgh in every game of the Stanley Cup Finals. And I bring up the shots because they had 58 in Game 5.
Did it go to overtime?
That was a triple OT game.
Okay.
That Marc-Andre Fleury stole by standing on his head.
Pittsburgh won?
Yeah, Pittsburgh won.
Oh my God.
A triple OT game where they had 58 shots, the Red Wings did. The Wings never faced elimination. So unlike the Blackhawks where they were down 3-1 and then the Blackhawks come back, the Wings, they danced to the finals. They danced all the way to a victory, never facing elimination. More impressively, in the Stanley Cup Finals, they never trailed.
Mm-hmm.
They never trailed in the games. Like it was just
lost 2 overtime games.
Yeah, they lost the 2 overtime games, the triple OT one, and then the other one I don't have it in front of me, which is the other game. But yeah, they never trailed. There, and then this is the icing on the cake. They almost repeated the next year, but lost in Game 7 to Pittsburgh. This is the best team, I think, of the post-lockout.
Interesting.
Very,
very interesting. Now, I could run through my list super quick here. Steve, do you have your list ready?
I sure do.
Okay, do you want to go?
Sure.
You go.
Okay. So I have the 2007 Ducks as number 6. Mm-hmm. They were a really influential team. That team, I mean, people wanted Brian Burke because of that team.
The Leafs.
Yes. And
Randy Carlyle too.
There was a conditional pick in the Chris Pronger trade from Edmonton to Anaheim. And I remember the conversation. I wish I could find the interview somewhere, but it was basically Kevin Lowe with the Oilers just having a frank conversation with Burke. This was pre them wanting to fight in a barn. And he was like, I'm just handing you a trip to the Stanley Cup final, right? And he goes, yeah. So they put a conditional pick in there that was, if they made the Stanley Cup final, you get another first. And that first ended up being, I believe, Jordan Eberle.
Oh, wow.
I want to say, yes. So, but they were unbelievable for all the reasons that Jesse said. Number 5, I have the 2009 Penguins. Because
the Mark Recchi Penguins.
Oh, yeah. People forget that's where he got his third tattoo, I believe. Because he has a tattoo with every team he's won with. Who's he got? He's got the Hurricanes. He's got the Penguins. I don't remember. Did he win with the Habs in 93? I think he might have when he was really young.
Maybe. Yeah, maybe.
I don't remember. Anyway, so yeah, 2009 Penguins. Watching it live was such a great passing of the torch moment. And, you talk about having to overcome someone. The Penguins had to overcome the Red Wings, but they didn't just have to overcome the Red Wings. They had to overcome the Red Wings, who had stolen one of their best pieces from the previous year in Marian Hossa, which Marian Hossa, after losing in back-to-back Stanley Cup finals, decided, I'm never doing that again. And then he signed for a dozen years in Chicago, where he ended up winning 3 cups. Number 4, I have this year's Lightning. So regular season success, far less of a factor for me in my list. I just looked at the run, but the Lightning this year, while they didn't dominate teams, when push came to shove in elimination games, they weren't losing. There was no shot of it. There's no shot of it. Bless the Islanders. They were wonderful. Maybe even the second best team in hockey. There was no shot. Andrei Vasilevsky in elimination games is simply the best goalie in the sport right now. Number 3, the 2012 LA Kings. They were unbeatable for like 3 months. it was the lead up to the playoffs was wild. They barely lost. They speed wobbled a bit in the Stanley Cup final, but they ended up shutting it down. Number 2, 2013 Blackhawks. Jesse set that up extremely well. They were just dominant. And number 1, the reason I called the 2019 Penguins a passing of the torch moment, and the part of the reason the Ducks are on this list, is because of the 2008 Detroit Red Wings. They were the standard for a really long time. And you look at the Kings teams that eventually developed. You looked at the Blues teams that did so well for so long and never quite made it. You look at the Sharks teams that did so well for so long and didn't really quite make it. The Red Wings fingerprints are all over that. If you wanted to win the Stanley Cup, especially in the West, you had to go through them. And Jesse, you read that roster.
Yeah.
She's crazy.
What on earth?
Like, how many Hall of Famers? 5? 6?
What on earth do you do? Yeah, 5 so far. Like, Chris Osgood's probably getting
no. It's way more than 5. I think it's at 7. 7 now.
There you go.
I'd be surprised. Like
hold on.
And like, how many Olympians? How many gold medalists? How many, like, Chris Draper and Kirk Maltby were Olympians? People forget that, right? As like shutdown guys, because they knew it worked. They didn't have to be the most skilled guys, but they're like, we need a 4th line, and we know they can do it against the best.
Yep.
So they had them. So, I mean, the goalie for the best team of the Cap era was Chris Osgood. Go figure.